Yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party 101 ESPN. And Jackson, we got to move. I don't have time for a breakdown of Ant and the work he did in Denver.
I understood.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Wow. All right, fair enough. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN. It's driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. Get in that YouTube chat. It's become a hotbed of activity. And, of course, the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. Here's why we are moving today. And, yes, I'll talk about the Cardinals, as you might imagine. But Mike Florio wrote a column titled, St. Louis Keeps Showing It Should Have an NFL Team. And he's going to join us here in about 10 minutes. So I got to be on the clock. I actually have to be on the clock today. So we're going to break at probably 10:13 to make sure we have him at 10:15. But he wrote about how St. Louis is killing it when it comes to attendance. Battlehawks had 32,969. The Cardinals outdrew them, but again, it was a beautiful day in St. Louis on Saturday. Then storms moved in and led to a delay. But I want to hear what Florio has to say about it. Now, I want to make this clear because this might activate a hillbilly with a dog avatar. And I say that like endearingly. He's not saying St. Louis is going to get an NFL team because of the Battlehawks. But what his premise is you want to say St. Louis is a bad football team. Well, St. Louis is drawing like the majority of the fans for the UFL. So you can't say St. Louis is a bad football market. And I've been saying here on this show and on TMA and probably my podcast, Tim McKernan Show, that, yeah, it's nice that St. Louis gets all these fans, but nobody outside of St. Louis is paying attention to it. Well, here's Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk writing about it. So I appreciate that because I think it does deserve some attention. I also understand why no one nationally would write about it because who nationally is talking about the UFL? But I want to talk about it with Florio, and not just that part of it, but also when the NFL is going to expand next. I can't imagine they'd expand to the 24th and dropping media market in the country, but hey, I would love it. And also if there are any teams that are possibly up for relocation. Have you heard of anybody that's up for? I keep wondering about Carolina and Jacksonville. Those would be my two. They're building in Nashville now. It used to be, Minnesota built. They leveraged L.A. against them. I just don't know who it would be.
I think Jacksonville just had something where there's
some issues in Jacksonville, and it's a secondary source just last week. I'm not saying that means that they would come to St. Louis, but sure. So Jacksonville,
Carolina. I mean, they were selling tickets.
Buffalo, they're building a new one.
Yeah. Outside of that, and I don't know what the new hold it against you city, I guess,
right,
London
exactly.
or Mexico City.
Suppose. Anyway, so Florio is going to join us at 10:15. I'm going to be quick with that, setting the table, so that's coming your way. Meanwhile, sweet mother of mercy, Jackson, I said, can you imagine if the Cardinals got swept by the White Sox? I think losing the series is damn near as bad.
Yep.
To lose to that team, who I really do think when it's all said and done will have a 5 or less in front of their win total for the season. Mm-hmm. And to lose in the fashion that they continue to lose, and to need Sonny Gray to do what he continues to do in order to win the one game they won, I'm telling you, and I know it sounds like, hey, I'm going to come in and do a take thing, but I'm telling you, I've been observing this team night in, night out since 1982. But this can bring in younger people as well. Just taking the Bill DeWitt ownership era, I don't know if they have had a lower approval rating in his time as owner. So you're talking about close to 30 years than they do at this moment. And it's just like they keep doing new things to make you more and more angry, frustrated, or apathetic. Take your pick. To lose 2 of 3 to a team that had won 6 games coming in is mind-blowing to me. It really is. I'm alarmed by it. And it's the continuation of having no offense. Now, Sonny Gray is sick, and he got him the win on Friday night. But then you lose the next 2 to that team, and you can't hit. It's just really stunning what is going on. And I think people are at peak anger or peak apathy, one or the other. But this organization has not had this kind of disapproval since Bill DeWitt bought the franchise from the Brewery nearly 30 years ago. And I don't blame people. Jackson, disaster.
Yeah, I mean, outside, if Sonny Gray doesn't absolutely throw a gem against the pitiful White Sox, you're probably staring at a sweep. you're probably staring at a sweep. And they just don't have it. Offensively, it is so brutal and it's so boring to watch. And if you're not named Nolan Arenado or Contreras, really, you're not doing anything. I mean, Wynn broke a 16 at-bat hitting streak or not getting a hit. And he's one of the other guys who was hitting. Like, you're just not getting offense from anywhere. And I don't know if that can just turn over a new leaf with a new game. Like, I think they're in a tough spot, and I don't know what the future looks like.
They were in a spot where you would have thought they would be able to capitalize. I mean, I'm not saying that the Mets or the White Sox or the Rockies, both those teams sitting there with 8 wins, but the Mets certainly aren't, a team that you go, oh, God, they're playing the Mets. Better hope to get one. You had the Mets, the Tigers, the White Sox, and the Mets before a 4-game series in Milwaukee. You got to fatten up because coming up later this month, it'll be fun from a fan standpoint to have the Red Sox, Orioles, and Cubs here. But it gets a little rough again. See, this is the time to fatten up. And instead, what have they done? They're actually below 500 in this 9-game stretch to date.
Jesus. Oh, God.
It's unreal. There's that part of it, but then there's also the part that I think upsets people more so than what you see on the field. And it's like, I mean, imagine. Had they not given Ali Marmol the extension, what would be the talking point around? Are they going to fire him?
Yeah, right.
You know, Ben Frederickson wrote a column following yesterday's loss in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch talking about how this feels like the kind of game where somebody gets fired. But since they just extended the manager, now the attention is on Turner Ward, is the hitting coach.
Yeah.
The thing is that rarely people get fired down there. I think that's what pisses people off, that it's like you're invincible and you're tone deaf. Let's do a couple of things to piss off people who have been ridiculously loyal over the years. So we will certainly focus on the Cardinals on this program in the second half of the show. But on the other side of the break, Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk will be joining us. And he wrote the following on Pro Football Talk. The UFL is struggling to put fans in the stands in 7 of the cities where it plays. In 1, the stands are packed. For the 3rd time in 3 home games, the St. Louis Battlehawks attracted more than 30,000 fans. It raises the question of whether St. Louis should have an NFL team again. And he goes on to expound, and we will talk that over with Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. You see him on NBC's Sunday Night Football as well. Mike Florio joining us on the other side of the break here on Balloon Party 101 ESPN. James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency is online at carltoninsurance.net. That's James Carlton with 367 5-star reviews when you type his name into Google. That's right, 367 5-star reviews. And what are those reviews raving about? The service that people get when they call 314-961-4800, or they make the switch to James and his team by going to carltoninsurance.net. It's that great customer service. Plus, a lot of people's insurance has gone up in the last year. Give James and his team a chance to save you money. And if you have kids under 25 on your insurance policy, this is where James saves people the most money. 367 5-star reviews. James Carlton, Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency in Webster Groves. Just go online at carltoninsurance.net or give them a call at 314-961-4800. It's James Carlton. If your insurance costs a leg and an arm, call James Carlton, State Farm. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party 101 ESPN, a program driven to you by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota. Listen on 101 ESPN or the 101 ESPN app. Watch and participate in the chat on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel. Our guest here coming up in a matter of seconds writes for ProFootballTalk.com. Always, from my standpoint, straight shooting, not in the pocket of anybody at the NFL. Very refreshing. And then also has a new book coming out, Jackson. And this is a mob book, Father of Mine, available on Amazon. It is our pleasure to be joined right now by Mike Florio. Mike, good morning.
Hey, how are you, buddy? Good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. Thank you so much. You know, I've been making the observation over the last couple of weeks when people had been calling attention to the attendance that the Battlehawks have been getting at the old home of the Rams, that while it's incredible, and I'm truly fascinated by it, no one around the country cares. No one around the country would observe, and I don't really blame anybody around the country for not paying attention to the UFL. And then you write about it. And if you write about it, and with the kind of traffic that Pro Football Talk gets, that calls attention to what's going on in St. Louis. So I'm sure on behalf of a number of St. Louisans, thank you for writing about it. Thank you for calling attention to what took place with the Rams exit and how that was not necessarily a wrong that was righted, but yet another wrong on the part of Stan Kroenke and the league. But specific to what's taken place with the Battlehawks, I am stunned by it. What is your reaction, and anybody you talk to around football, to the reaction of St. Louis supporting this UFL franchise like it has?
Well, first of all, I will say this. St. Louis and I have come a very long way, because it was roughly 10 years or so ago that I was sounding the alarm that Stan Kroenke is going to move the team to Los Angeles. That was something that prompted many people in St. Louis to call me bad names and say I was rooting against the city and I was doing this and I was doing that. All I was doing was reading the tea leaves that were becoming more and more obvious by the day that Stan Kroenke was going to do whatever he had to do to move the team to L.A. and build a stadium that would generate the kind of revenue that would make it a good business move, regardless of anything they were saying locally, the lies they told, the things that culminated in the $790 million settlement. So Stan Kroenke and the Rams lied their way out of town because they wanted to go to L.A. We saw it coming. And now that St. Louis has a team in a league that is having a hard time putting asses in the seats everywhere else, to see what they've been able to do. And really, it started with the XFL and the Battlehawks. They've been getting great crowds there. And to get 40,000 in the debut this year, and then it was down to like 31,000, up to 32,000 over the weekend, I just think that it's admirable, and it shows that St. Louis is a place that the NFL, in the future, if and when there's issues of relocation or expansion, how can you overlook St. Louis? Now, people at the league office and people around the league may still be upset because, you know, it's never their fault that they had to pay $790 million. It's got to be somebody else's fault. But I think that at a time when more and more teams are having a hard time getting the public money they want to build stadiums, if that money's ever available in St. Louis, that's a potential solution for one of these teams that's having a hard time getting what it's looking for in its current home.
We saw what happened with Cleveland, for example, when the Browns became the Baltimore Ravens. Eventually, Houston got an expansion team after the Oilers went to Tennessee and became the Titans. There are some locally, and I think some nationally, as a matter of fact, Mike, who are of the opinion that if St. Louis really pushed for it, and if the leadership of the city, not necessarily the attorneys, who of course were going to get $250 million once that was settled, pushed for it, that St. Louis could have been in that same position to hold up the league and say, all right, we're going to take this thing all the way to trial unless you give us an expansion team. Was that ever live in your opinion or your reporting?
Well, I think that anything that the two sides to a legal dispute choose to do to resolve their differences is fair game. It's not that a court could have ordered a team to go to St. Louis, but if the verdict is large enough, if the consequence for the league is dramatic enough, then one way out of it is to say we're going to give you a team. And that's how they got the Browns to leave behind the name became the Ravens instead, leave the records behind. That was all part of negotiation done under the threat of potential litigation. So that is a way to resolve differences and get things done. So with more pressure, it could have happened. Ultimately, when the NFL decides to put that much money on the table, it's hard to say no to it because, look, there's no sure thing.
Right.
I practiced law for 19 years. There's no sure thing. And anybody who tells you there's a sure thing is either lying or stupid because all sorts of things can go wrong on the way to a verdict. $790 million is a lot to say no to. But yes, it could have. If depending upon what that final verdict would have been or how scared the NFL ultimately would have become, getting a team with a 20 or 30-year commitment, I think, could have been on the table.
Mike Florio is our guest here on 101 ESPN and 101 ESPN's YouTube channel. He, of course, is the guy when it comes to ProFootballTalk.com and has a new book out called Father of Mine. It is about a mob family, and that is available now on Amazon. Mike Florio, our guest. One of the things that bothers me, because I actually get, and I'm a lifelong St. Louis, and Stan Kroenke picking up and moving to L.A., I get why the NFL wanted him there. He could privately fund it. Spanos and Davis couldn't, so it makes sense. I understand that. What bothers me as a St. Louisan is that the market then became painted as a city that doesn't support football, with the Cardinals leaving following the 87 season and the Rams leaving following the 15 season. You, of course, being as tied into the league and also the people who cover the league as well as you are, what is the opinion from them on St. Louis as a football market?
Well, look, it wasn't an issue of St. Louis not being willing to pay what was necessary to build a new stadium. Now, the national mood is turning sharply away from any taxpayer money being available. Anytime a measure like that ends up on a public ballot, it fails miserably, as the Chiefs learned not that long ago. And I think it's getting harder and harder to work the political channels without a public vote to get free money. But when this was all going down, St. Louis was trying to fix the problem. The reality is Stan Kroenke was hell-bent on moving to L.A., and they lied at every turn, led by Kevin Demoff, to conceal what they were really up to because they didn't want the fan base to scatter until it was time to pull up the stakes and move to L.A. They wanted people to continue to open their wallets and surrender money to the team under the guise the team was still going to be there until the moment it was time to move. I understand it. I'm not saying it was right, but I understand it. So St. Louis was trying to keep the team and trying to make something happen. And when you look at, and I understand that Detroit has an NFL team, but, they're struggling to put people in the stands for a competitive franchise at a time when people in Michigan should generally be excited to go watch football games because they're blessed with pretty damn good teams, both at the college and pro level. The fact that St. Louis is so dramatically beyond the other 7 franchises, I really do think it needs to be taken seriously by the NFL. And I don't know how much more stadium reshuffling there is going to be. But, if at the end of the day, teams are going to have to build their own NFL stadiums, you want to go to the places where the people and the money are. And this is a proven market where people are going to show up. If you do have to pay for your own stadium, you pay for it in a place where you're going to get that money back because it's going to be full for every game, and the fans are going to take to it. So, I don't know when, but it wouldn't shock me if someday St. Louis finds itself back into the NFL's good graces. Once enough time passes, I think people are still upset. People with the league are still upset about the money that had to be paid, but it's their own damn fault. They just need to recognize it's their own damn fault that they had to pay that money.
ProFootballTalk.com's Mike Florio and the author of the new book, Father of Mine, available on Amazon. He is our guest right now on 101 ESPN, talking about a column you can read right now on Pro Football Talk. And the title of it is, and this is based on the Battlehawks attendance this past Saturday, St. Louis keeps showing it should have an NFL team, written by Mike Florio and just posted yesterday at ProFootballTalk.com. You make reference to Detroit, Ford Field, a couple decades old at this point. Other markets that could be in the mix for having some issues with teams? I mean, for the last few decades before the Rams moved, L.A. was the team that was held up to leverage cities to build stadiums. So what are they using as leverage now, and who are the cities that are dealing with potential issues?
Well, some of the hot spots that have popped up fairly recently, you've got obviously the Chiefs, who thought as of a month or so ago they were going to prevail on the extension of a sales tax that would have paid for renovation to Arrowhead Stadium. That was a miserable landslide defeat for that measure. So they're exploring their options, and they're not afraid to say so. The Bengals are in a bit of a bind to work out a new lease at their building that they want public money to renovate. The Browns trying to figure out a situation in Cleveland now. There are legal hoops they'd have to jump through if they would ever want to move, because the city's protected itself against a repeat of the Art Modell exodus. So those are just three that come to mind, and it changes from time to time. Jacksonville could get shut out of what it's trying to accomplish by way of a $2 billion renovation to its stadium, where there would be public money for half of it. And what it all comes down to, and again, I don't know if there's going to be another Las Vegas that kicked in $750 million to lure the Raiders from Oakland, but it takes a city that is willing to say, here you go, here's your free money, come to our town. If there's a city like that, that becomes, at a minimum, leverage for the NFL to stay in the city it's currently in. But I think also, that's a way to get back in the good graces of the league, too. If St. Louis tries to get one of these teams and fails, hey, at least you propped up our effort to get what we wanted in Kansas City or Cincinnati or Cleveland or wherever, and that could be a way back in. I just don't know that public money is ever going to be available again. I think it's going to be harder and harder as these franchise values go up. $10 billion or more is what these teams are apparently worth now. At some point, all politicians are going to say to the owners, pay for your own damn stadium. We're out of the business of giving you free money.
How close is the league to expansion?
At one point during the 2023 season, I said, if I ever bring up the topic of expansion again, please walk up and punch me in the face. Not that I would need to give everybody an invitation, because when you tell it like it is, you piss people off. But when you look at the fact that last year there were 66 different starting quarterbacks and the numbers were the highest they'd been since 2015, people will still watch football games even when the starting quarterbacks are injured. So are there enough good quarterbacks to go around for 32 teams? No. Does it matter? No. So the NFL, I think, with all the money that it's making directly and indirectly from legalized gambling, one objective by way of increasing inventory is to add games to the regular season. And we already have seen the official start of the push for 18. And I think they're not going to rest until they get to 20. It's going to take maybe 30 years to get to 20, but I think they will get to 20. At some point, the only way you increase inventory, though, is with more teams. More teams equals more games. And it would not surprise me if that is on the horizon. I don't know how soon, but I think that there will be a discussion. 32 becomes 34, 34 becomes 36, 36 becomes 38, and I think the ultimate maximum number we would see in the NFL, and this is maybe 50 years from now, 40 teams playing 20 games. I would not be surprised if that happens. Now, that puts a lot of cities in play. It might put smaller stadiums in play because it's more about televising the games and letting people bet on them in real time now than how many people are actually at the games. So, I see a future where up to 20 games, up to 40 teams, but I don't know how many of us are going to be alive when that happens.
Is there an appetite for London beyond what they are currently doing with the games overseas? What about Mexico City? I mean, would it be an international move, you think, or do you think they would stay in the United States?
Every once in a while, the NFL, and usually it's every year when the London games are coming, the NFL acts like it's serious about expansion to London, relocation to London, a Super Bowl in London. And I think that's all about getting the people in London to open their wallets to maximum capacity and fully embrace the NFL. Roger Goodell was somewhere recently, I can't remember which show it was. He was doing his media stuff in conjunction with the draft, and he acknowledged the competitive issues that go along with relocation of a team, the things that would just make it harder, and whatever they would do to balance it out, to give a team more cap space, more draft picks, whatever. If that team becomes good, then the question is, are we doing too much for that team? But think about the basic NFL road trip. You leave on Saturday, you're home on Sunday. Well, if your home team is in London, you leave for the States and you're back 3 weeks later. Like, sorry, honey, take care of the kids. I'll see you in 3 weeks. That's just not going to be an attractive destination for a lot of players. And I think it's just going to make it harder to have a competitive league. And then you get into playoffs. Seattle's got to play at London. I think Goodell was on McAfee's show saying that. What do you do when you've got next weekend, Seattle's got to play in London? How do you work that out? How do you make that fair? So I think that they'll continue to play games in other countries every year. I said this years ago, this is going to be like, remember when we were kids and you wanted that pack of cereal, the little boxes, like there were 8 boxes and they were shrink wrapped together? That's what it's going to become, and that's what it has become for England. It's a variety pack of small cereal boxes, and it's never one team all the time.
I forgot about those small cereal boxes. Nice little nostalgic piece there. Final question for you, Mike. The UFL championship game is in St. Louis, June 16th, 5 o'clock start, Father's Day weekend. And there is a very good chance that the Battlehawks would be in there. If somehow St. Louis were able to pack that building and bring it back to the kind of levels it was before it became clear that Stan Kroenke was likely moving this team out of St. Louis, do you think somebody other than you around the country would write or talk about it?
I think so. I think it's inevitable. I think that if there's a packed house for the UFL championship, and, you know, maybe the UFL needs to have a script like the NFL has to make sure the Battlehawks get there. But if it's Battlehawks and Stallions, and are the Battlehawks and the Stallions in the same conference, or they're in different conferences?
They're in different conferences.
Okay, good. Then you don't have to worry about the Stallions because they're like unbeatable.
That's correct, Birmingham.
Yeah, I think you got to write the script and get the Battlehawks there, but how can you not? You know, and this is why the NFL had a blackout rule for as long as it did. It finally abandoned it about 10 years ago, suspended it, and it never came back. The game is more exciting when people are there in the stands. It adds to the vibe. And yesterday, for example, the Michigan game-winning field goal, kicked into a sea of empty seats. Like, why am I watching this if those people aren't there?
Yep.
And so the more people are there, I think the more it creates an urgency to watch the game on TV. That's why the NFL wanted that blackout rule. It wanted full stadiums to create excitement on TV. And I think a UFL championship with a full stadium would be a great way to lay the foundation for 2025.
Just a brief aside, in an industry, and I'm talking about the media in general, and this isn't limited to sports, politics, I suppose, entertainment, music. Seems like everybody's in somebody's pocket. It's refreshing to either read or listen to someone who you don't necessarily know what they're going to say, but you believe it's coming from a place of honesty. So thank you for shooting it straight, even though you know that you're probably going to catch hell for it plenty of times.
I don't care. I'm at the point where, thank you for that. I've always been this way, but I've reached the point where I got enough money that if they kicked me out today, I'd be fine. So I'm going to be even more dangerous now going forward. I don't care what they think. I'm going to say what I believe.
There it is. I love it. That's the most dangerous man, Jackson, the man who doesn't care anymore. And that's Mike Florio. Yeah. Mike, the book again, Father of Mine, Mafia book, available on Amazon and, of course, ProFootballTalk.com. We tell our audience to read the column. St. Louis keeps showing it should have an NFL team. Mike Florio with us here on 101 ESPN. Mike, thank you so much for the time this morning.
All right, see you, pal.
Thank you. That's Mike Florio with us here on 101 ESPN. Your thoughts are welcome. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. And, of course, the YouTube chat. We welcome you to give your thoughts on what Mike Florio had to say. And, of course, lots of Cardinal discussion in the second half. Balloon Party, 101 ESPN. This is Tim McKernan for the Bath Authority. If your bath or shower is old, outdated, has mold, mildew, or broken tiles, you gotta call the wonderful people at the Bath Authority. The Bath Authority provides the highest quality bathroom remodeling products along with a world-class customer experience. Their modern, durable tubs and showers are designed with an exclusive high-tech polymer liner. What that means to you is it'll be low maintenance, resistant to mold and mildew, easy to clean, and last for decades. Plus, it comes with a lifetime warranty. Walk-in tubs, replacement showers, tub-to-shower conversions, and more. Every unit is custom built. you pick the premium accents and accessories, including safety features like low-profile showers, grab bars, and shower seats. All Bath Authority products are 100% made in the USA and can be installed in as little as 1 day by certified factory technicians. Call today. 314-347-0410 and get $1,000 off a new shower or bath, plus 36 months, same as cash financing. You are their priority at the Bath Authority. It's thebathauthority.com. A better bath awaits.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Wandoff Chevrolet and Johnny Wandoff Autoplex. The Cardinals lose yesterday 5-1 at the hands of the Chicago White Sox. They lose 2 out of 3 to the 8-win White Sox. But they got the Mets tonight. First pitch at 7:10. Kyle Gibson on the mound for the Redbirds. And yesterday in the NBA, the Cavaliers defeat the Magic 106-94. Donovan Mitchell with 39 points. The Cleveland Cavaliers now advanced to face the Boston Celtics in the second round. That was another Sports Center update driven by Johnny Wandoff Chevrolet and Johnny Wandoff Autoplex. See them at wandoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Welcome back, 101 ESPN. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you until 11 o'clock. Jackson, biggest takeaway from our interview with Mike Florio, which if you missed, go back and podcast, courtesy of the Dobbs Tire and Auto Center podcast on the 101 ESPN app or the TMA STL app.
You know, we've had Mike Florio on TMA during the revocation lawsuit of 2021, and I really like the way he describes the NFL as having inventory, how games are like inventory to them. And so the way to increase inventory is either increase games, which they have, or increase teams. Then you're getting 17 or 18 more games, depending on what the schedule looks like. So I really like how he uses that. And the idea of in the next 50 years, 40 teams playing 20 games, I mean, it kind of boggles the mind. But in the terms of inventory, I think that's really interesting. And of course, him saying, you know, if you are thinking of expansion or relocation, you have to think of a place where you know, or at least to the best of ability, you know, that people are going to come and support and bring the heat. And he's St. Louis clearly has those chops. So I really like that. I like the way he says inventory when it comes to the NFL, because it's a business. It's 100% a business, and we've learned that firsthand based on what we saw in 2014, 15, and 16.
I just like an interview in which, it might be one of the reasons why I don't do like these kind of like radio, for lack of a better term, interviews. I like podcast interviews.
A little more long form.
Yeah. We don't even really do them on TMA. Oftentimes I just feel like it's filling time, and I don't need to fill time. Where I'm asking a guy questions, I'm sure what his answer is going to be.
Yeah.
Because usually I think, because so many people are bought and paid for, and I don't say bought and paid for, I actually understand it, because that makes it look like they're doing something immoral, and I don't necessarily see it that way. But they have a conflict of interest, I suppose would be the best way to say it. And it's not limited to, like, you know, take your pick of something in sports. It's across the board now. That's why I named this show Balloon Party, as a tribute to Joe Strauss, because I would pick up the paper, I'd read online, I guess, or listen to him on shows. He would be on our show on TMA, and I didn't know where he would come down on something, but I knew that it was an educated opinion that he could back up, not just like, oh, I'm going to give a take, so I'll get opinion, because he didn't care about that, so I'll give a controversial opinion. So with Florio, I can tell you this little anecdote, and I said this on TMA, and this is true. Do with it what you want. He would come on TMA a decade plus ago. He cited that, actually, and how he used to be persona non grata with some St. Louisans because he was talking about the Rams moving. And many St. Louisans were being told they had nothing to fear, whether it be by the Rams or other media members. Right. And Florio was like, no, they're going to move. And Ray Hartman, if you remember, no, they're going to move. And certainly on TMA, morning after Jeff Fisher's press conference, we open up the show. I say to Doug Vaughn, Doug, what's out to you from the Jeff Fisher press conference? Well, the Rams are going to move, because that was Stan Kroenke, and we could pick up what was going on there. And they didn't move for nearly 4 years from that press conference. That press conference was January 2012. They moved in January 2016. Either way, Florio would come on the show, and our producer Joe was his name. Producer Joe would tweet out links and clips and things that he said, and Kevin Demoff asked us to not tweet out things from Florio because it would get attention, and he didn't want that attention. So,
can imagine why.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you can imagine, we didn't stop, not because we're going to do it because he said otherwise. We're just like, well, we don't, we don't kiss any rings, much less yours. It's just, then don't ask me to do that.
Only Don Pepe's ring do we kiss.
I do kiss Don Pepe's ring. So yeah, there's a little anecdote to give you an idea that Florio's been doing this for a while. Jackson, we got to talk Cardinal baseball here, because the Redbirds just lost to perhaps a team that will compete with the 62 Mets for how bad they are, and they lost 2 of 3. Where do you want to go here with this Little Piddles weekend wrap-up?
I mean, the only question to ask is, like, what happens next? Like, where do you go? Because, I mean, clearly, and...
Well, what's this? Meet the Mets.
Hey,
meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets.
Hey. That's the next game on the schedule, but I think it goes without saying, and maybe disagree if you think I'm wrong here, but this is the lowest approval rating a Cardinal team or the state of the Cardinals have been, certainly in my lifetime,
in Bill DeWitt's ownership era.
Yeah, definitely. So where do you go? You have Marmol, who has gotten a contract extension. That doesn't mean by any means he is safe from being fired. That just means they'll have to pay him a little bit more. But, like, does someone lose their jobs? Does a shakeup happen with pitching? Does a coach get gone? I mean, what is the next step for the Cardinals to at least signal to the fan base?
My expectation is they do nothing.
Yeah.
I also still think they're not as bad as it looks. I just can't imagine that all of these guys, we've listed them, the statistics, are this bad.
Right.
Now, I'm not trying to say, I think this is a great team, and fans who are critical need to pay attention because Bill DeWitt's a good man, and I need to keep getting,
barrel rates,
interviews. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying I just don't. I think I look at it simply through the lens of statistics. I also continue to think that there's likely a regression from a pitching standpoint when it comes to the starters. But isolating in on a baseball move, the confidence, reliance, or inability or lack of willingness to go out and get another starting pitcher this year put Steven Matz, who was damaged goods, not just from a talent perspective, but from a health perspective, into the rotation, which leveraged the rotation, which then leverages the bullpen, which then led to Game 3 against the Chicago White Sox. And at the time, there's 7 wins because you have Matthew Liberatore starting and a bullpen that was depleted, and you just hand one over to a really bad baseball team. Yep. And the chickens came home to roost yesterday on the offseason and counting on Steven Matz and not going, okay, well, we realize we might be dealing with some budgetary issues with the television situation, which, again, I continue to believe, and that's why I was supportive of the lack of long-term deals this offseason. But, as we know, Jordan Montgomery out there in March and signed. You don't have the situation that you have with Steven Matz. Now Zach Thompson down there in the bullpen, and Giovanni Gallegos, he might be on the Matt Bowman plan. Remember him? He would go out there and pitch like every other inning or something.
He was so bad.
Kevin Segrist got to that point at one point where they just killed their arms. I mean, the man has had 2 outings in Detroit and in St. Louis here over the last week, and has allowed 7 earned runs and recorded 0 outs. So it's something else. And I don't know what direction they would go. John Mozeliak is leaving the position as it is, so I don't think they're going to fire him. Ali Marmol, I mean, I just don't, first off, I don't blame him.
Nope.
I didn't think the roster was, I thought it was an 82 to 86 win roster, And I realize, I want to make that clear. It's not like I'm like, boy, this team should be doing great. They're obviously doing below that. But from a fan interest standpoint and a fan attendance standpoint, this is the first time that I have seen as many empty seats as I've seen. We've seen bad teams before in the DeWitt ownership era, but they were distracted by the sideshow of Mark McGwire's home runs in 98 and 99. Then the team got damn good from 2000 through 2006 and were even above 500 in the year they didn't make the playoffs in 2003. 2007, you have the World Series equity. 2008, out of the playoffs, but then above 500. 2009, a great team. And then they were in the mix in 10, and then in 11 through 15, 100-win team, or in the NLCS or NLDS or world champions. So, with that all said, now you have people going, I'm just not going. Yep. I don't even care. And I think that's a combination of not being able to watch it on television and not caring that they can watch it on television, or just feeling like the ownership group is not reciprocating their loyalty, so this is their way to protest. That's what I think is going on, and I can't wait to see what kind of crowd you get tonight. Yeah, what do you think that's going to look like down there with a rainy day like we got in St. Louis? That is going to be something to behold. So if you can get the game, and you're one of the lucky few, tune in to see the kind of attendance the Cardinals and Mets get tonight. We'll take a commercial break, come back with the final segment of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota, presenting sponsor of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. And they have a deal going on right now. Now, it's the TMA loyal listener deal, but we're going to bring this to Balloon Party. Here is the deal. 4-year lease, no money down, $589 a month for a 2024 Acura MDX Premium. That's right. A brand new car from Munganess St. Louis Acura, Munganess Burkhardt Alton Toyota. And you can get it for $589 a month with no money down. Go to stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com to work with Jamie Burkhardt or Clayton Patterson or Peter Munganast. And even if you didn't get your car from Munganast St. Louis Acura or Munganast Burkhardt Alton Toyota, get it serviced there. Once you start working with the fine people at Munganast St. Louis Acura and Munganast Burkhardt Alton Toyota, you're never going to go anywhere else. You're going to be thrilled with the experience. And that's why I am a very happy client and express the same invitation to you. It's stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. Welcome back. It's 10:55 in St. Louis. Tim McKernan, Jackson Burkett with you. We got 5 minutes, Jackson, on Balloon Party before BK and Florio come in. I want you to optimize this time.
Sure. How about what went down over the weekend between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I thought, and I was pulling for the Leafs because I wanted to see Jim Montgomery come to the note. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to, because if you
Were you
lose.
watching?
No. However, if you lose in the fashion that the Bruins would have lost in.
Oh, Bill. And it almost happened with 5 seconds left in regulation. I was watching it live. And, oh, my God.
Yeah, because if that's the way it went down, then there would be almost no question that Montgomery's going to be out on the market. And then you might have a new Blues head coach a little earlier than anticipated. Otherwise, now I think you're going to have to wait till whenever a team raises the chalice, and then you might see. Although, there's a little press conference going on in Toronto today.
Yeah, Sheldon Keefe's addressing the media. That's standard. What usually happens there, though, is they address it with the front office as well. Keefe is talking today. Front office is talking on Thursday. Keep an eye on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that necessarily means that the Blues are going that direction. Montgomery has ties here.
Yeah.
So that's a different set of circumstances. I think there was a thought process with some that whoever loses that game, the winner gets the Panthers, the loser gets the Blues head coaching job.
Not a bad consolation prize.
So, there you go.
Yeah. Do you think now that the Bruins have ousted the Maple Leafs and moved on to the second round, that Montgomery's job, at least seemingly, is in a lot better position than it was?
I think it could have been a mutual situation. I'm not so sure on him and wanting to stay there. And then also, if he would have lost and blown a 3-1 series lead back-to-back years, I think he's gone. I can't imagine Sheldon Keefe keeps his job. By the way, I know this is more of an NBA show, and I'm excited about the possibility of the Knicks and the Celtics, but you could also have Boston and New York going at it in the Stanley Cup final, or Stanley Cup Eastern Conference final with the Rangers and Bruins if Boston gets past the Panthers, and the Rangers got things going yesterday by beating the Hurricanes. But you have you have the one seed coming out of every single first round in each of the regions, of the divisions. And then you either have a 3 seed, as is the case with one of them, with Colorado, or 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, with Vancouver and Edmonton, Boston and Florida, and New York and Carolina. The Stanley Cup playoffs are strong, brother.
Yeah.
I'm looking for Connor McDavid against the Blue Shirts. That's what I'd like to see. My son, for whatever reason, loves the Canucks. I have no idea why, so I guess I would pull for that if he's actually watching.
Yeah.
But either way, Stanley Cup playoffs, strong.
Very strong. Yeah. I guess I'm pulling to see that Boston, New York in both sports. That would be great. That's just great for sports in general. And I'm sure the folks at Madison Square Garden and the TD Garden would be thrilled too, because every single night they would have action.
Yeah.
Every single night. And Boston already has they go Bruins, Celtics, Bruins, Celtics, Bruins, Celtics. Same with Rangers, Knicks. So it's certainly, I'd like to see McDavid. I want to see Canada break the streak, and I think it should be McDavid to do it.
Wow. I think Jamie Rivers will be happy to hear you say that.
The best since '99 should be the one to bring it home.
Wow, there it is. Action Jackson is officially saying Oilers will hoist the chalice.
That's right. And mark down the time. It's May 6th, 2024.
There it is. Jackson has made his Stanley Cup playoff prediction. All right, time for us to shut it down. BK and Ferrari are up next. If you missed Mike Florio, I would recommend listening to that. Dobbs Tire and Auto Center's podcast, the 101 ESPN app, or the TMA STL app. You get all of our TMA shows and the Tim McKernan Show podcast, plus Balloon Party is all on there. It's the TMA STL app. It's an outstanding app that was designed by Hubbard, and everything is right there for you. BK and Ferrario up next. For Jackson Burkett, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Munganess, Burkhardt, Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and the 101 ESPN YouTube channel.